Good afternoon. Welcome to the Embedded Executive Podcast. My name is Rich Ness. I am with Embedded Computing Design. This week, my guest is David Sandys, and he is the Senior Director of Technical Enablement and Engagement for DigiKey. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thanks for letting me be here. Looking forward to the discussion.
Very good. Same here. I know we were both at Embedded World a couple weeks ago, and we literally crossed paths and didn't get a chance to chat. So why don't why don't we start there? What'd
There
you
goes
see that?
Rich.
Yeah, right. What did you see there that really caught your eye?
There were a few things. Unfortunately, as you know, it's such a huge event. You never get a chance to see everything you'd like to at those conferences. You're always spending time, meeting people, learning new things. But I'll tell you, there were a couple things that did catch my eye that were a little unique and different. One was a company called Signaloid. I don't know if you saw them at all. They
Nope.
actually created complete systems, ecosystems, MCU, memory, sensors, and all that in an SD form factor. And so you think about SD card form factor, I should say. So you think about applications for something like that. You could have something running an embedded system, especially in the industrial side of the equation, and then all of a sudden add functionality just by throwing in one of these little SD cards and to a memory slot that they already have there. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing. I will say one of my favorite products that I saw at the show by far, and this is maybe of interest to your listeners, may not, but is this the Beagle board Zepto board. So I don't know if you saw that, but it's literally the size of a postage stamp. And what I like about that is it's got that new TI MSPM0 product on it. It's got an RGB LED. It's got a micro bus on the back, so you can expand it for things like rapid prototyping, what have you. It's powered off of the quick connector. So it doesn't even have like a separate USB port for power or anything like that. It's just a really cool thing. And honestly, it's like about, I think they're trying to get it to about $1 resale for people to be able to utilize it. And
Mm.
so I think that's really neat. And then you can go all the way to the other extreme. I really like that. I don't know if you saw it, but the Infineon PSOC Edge HMI platform. So this is really cool with a 480 by 480 screen on it. It enables people to do AI and ML learning on the platform itself. But it's really a great little enclosed ecosystem by itself. Still expandable through things like the microbus on the back and things like that. But what we're finding is, and that's one of the big elements for big thought topic leaders for thought leadership activities for 2026 is obviously around Edge AI. And so this is one of those platforms that I think will do really well there simply because it enables people to do things quite easily, quite rapidly, leveraging the PSOC environment. So yeah, lots of cool things. Lots of cool
I
things at the
actually
show.
shot a video in the Infineon booth about that board that you just described. So I did say it was cool. And for the folks listening, if you hop over to Embedded Computing Design, you'll find a link to the video I just referred to that about the board David was talking about. So let me take a step back and make sure people understand what we're talking about here. What's your role at an embedded world? Why would a distributor have interest in what's going on there?
It's really the only place where we can get in touch with our customers on a mass level at scale and really sit down and understand what are their needs, what are the technical offerings from our suppliers that are coming out for the next year, and how are we going to make those two, intersect. So the ideas are how do we take the technology leadership that our companies, our suppliers are creating and bring it out to our customer community. And we did that through various demos. And one of the differences between DigiKey at the event and other distributors that are at the event is we had a whole tech bench area where our applications engineers, our technical marketing teams created demos that are unique and different, not leveraging just what suppliers are creating, but things that we think our audience that would resonate with our audience. So we had some things out there, not just like STM32 and six, facial recognition, hand gesture recognition platform, but then we take it to the next level where we actually have a game that it's playing and it'll recognize, you can tell it to start a certain game and certain hand gestures will do certain things. And you really get to understand what are some of the things you can do when you have on the edge that compute power and capability. We also had things out there like a machine chat demo that was leveraging the Arduino Uno Q. So the Uno Q is kind of one of their new platforms. We'll talk maybe a little bit. We'll get to the Ventuno if we've got some time to talk about what that one is. But the Uno Q, what makes it so unique and different is if you think about it, it's kind of like a mixture of an SBC, a Raspberry Pi type platform with an STM32 on it as well with a microcontroller. What that gives you is the ability to have things like machine chat. Machine chat is a program that does data aggregation, data visualization. It does that all on the SBC side of the equation, while leveraging the sensors through the Arduino side. Why this is so important is because a lot of companies and even schools and other places want to keep their data on premises. They don't want to have the data go up to the cloud. And so by having something like machine chat running on that board itself, you can get all your data visualization. You can see what's going on with the sensors on the platform, but you don't have to do references up to the cloud and interpret on the cloud and have your dashboards leveraged off the cloud. And that's kind of one of the cool things you get there. So DigiKey, by having all these, a plethora of different suppliers, we can aggregate all those and create something that's unique and different at the event. As opposed to a single supplier that's going to talk mostly about their platforms. We talked a little bit about Infineon and the PSOC Edge HMI board just a few minutes ago. While that's an interesting platform, there's no customer in the world, and we wish they would, that would design 100% with Infineon. They're going to want sensors, maybe let's say from a Bosch or Sensomatic or Sensirion, or Sensomatic, someone else, right? So that's what DigiKey can bring to the equation. And when you look at, for instance, we had a thread demo, we had platforms in there from NXP, we had platforms from other vendors, from Microchip, all in one platform that actually work together to talk about thread and what you would utilize in thread, how you can put that in an embedded environment, and how our customers can leverage that for rapid prototyping. And that's what we're trying to do at the event.
So you spoke earlier about Arduino, and I'd like to go back to that a little bit. If you're a member of the design community, and now this Arduino that you've come to know and love is now part of Qualcomm, what does that mean for an engineer?
I mean, I think it offers an unprecedented amount of flexibility and new performance gains that you just were not going to get by an Arduino by itself. So one of those things that you have is you have these environments like a Raspberry Pi, which is an incredible platform for rapid prototyping, but it bringing on traditional embedded sensors to that equation is a little bit of a challenge. And so what that means is that leveraging this type of environment where you've got both of those two things together, you've got the SBC side of the equation plus the real-time environment of the microcontroller. It gives that unprecedented single platform view of that data manipulation, the data aggregation, and what have you. So it's really unique and different. And obviously some of the challenges that originally happened is, how do you deal with this from a software standpoint? And App Lab is a really good example of them taking the first approach of making that work, where you've got these canned programs that are out there. But now I think they've taken it to the next level. The Ventuno Q, if you've seen that one, I don't know if you've played around with that platform yet or not. I've seen it a couple times now in the wild. And it's an amazing board. And that gets you now 40 TOPS. It gets you a device that's got an NPU, a GPU, and a CPU all in one platform. It's got 16 gigabytes of memory, 64, I should say, in eMMC. So there's a lot of things that you get from that platform that will enable unprecedented levels of performance to the masses. I mean, that's one of the things that get. It's funny, Rich, when you and I first started talking, an embedded design may have cost thousands of dollars to start, right? I mean, you go back in the history, and now with these new platforms, you're going to get 40 TOPS at a few $100s. I mean, it's just crazy as to where it's gone. And I think that's where it's a natural progression. The good thing is that they're dedicated to keeping Arduino, to its core notion of open source. They're dedicated to leveraging the Arduino IDE. They're dedicated to keeping what has made the secret sauce so special for Arduino as they move forward in the next part of this journey.
Very good. You seem to have done a pretty good job navigating through all the massive hype of AI. Where do you feel we are today with respect to hype versus reality? I know if we had this conversation a year ago, it was way more on the hype side, but where are we today, in your opinion?
I think we're getting there much quicker, especially on the edge. Now, obviously, on the main side of AI, you've got all these new companies that have come out, whether it's DeepX or Halo, that with these accelerators that are out there for traditional platforms and what have you. Those are really cool, but it's the edge where I think that where we've made huge strides in the last year. That we talked about the PSOC edge, but there's now coming out all these smart sensors that can do all of the inferencing on the edge. You take a look at some of the things that have come out from companies like Seed Studios, where you have these small little platforms to train models on the edge quickly, rapidly, with a single click. So people are learning how do they do, inferencing and those types of things. So in such an easy to follow format that it makes it almost, unfortunately, it makes it so easy that it takes a lot of the time out of the equation. So people are making leaps and bounds every month. And I think we're just going to continue to see that throughout this year. I think what you're going to find is that there's going to be more and more focus on the edge. And we're coming at it at two different levels. You've got, like I said, the Halos and the Deep X's at the very high end, the NVIDIAs and what have you at the very high end. I think Synaptics has a really neat platform coming out that they worked with Grinon and a couple other companies. That's the Coral Development Board. That's a really nice platform. You probably saw that at the show as well, or at the talk about it, at least at the show. And so you're getting the high end coming down, and you're getting the low end coming up. And somewhere in the middle is when that secret sauce is going to be perfect and ideal. We're getting there. I think probably within the next year or 2 years, things are just going to take off. It's almost like, Rich, it's almost like the wireless realm, right? If you think about where wireless was, now it seems like there's a new protocol every week, right? I mean, all of a sudden, you've got DECT NR Plus, right? So now the DECT, the old cordless handsets, that is now back, right? And you've got YSun, and you've got all of these new platforms that are all these new technologies that are out there. Eventually, one will win, or a few will win. And we've been talking about Halo, we've been talking about LoRaWAN, we've been talking about these things for a couple of years now. What will happen is something will win out, and I think we're going to get that convergence on edge AI as well. I think you're going to find other technologies that are really neat that are going to help expand utilization on the embedded space. Single pair Ethernet is another one that I think is ripe now that they're starting to really look at having a standardization around the connector format. So these platforms will all kind of be a little bit more plug and play. I think that's going to be critical. So I think standardization is going to be important from that standpoint. But I really think that on the edge AI portion, that's where it's going to be fun. It's going to be, I bet you when we come back here next year, there's going to be not just, one or two or three really interesting sensors. There's going to be like a dozen that you and I could probably take apart and, for a half hour and talk through. And I think that that's going to be fun and unique. I can't wait to see where it goes.
I love that you answered just about every one of my questions without me even asking it. Before we wrap up, I think we need to address the one elephant in the room, the memory crisis. That was definitely something that was very prevalent at the show, and for the most part, nobody would talk to me about it on the record. What's your take? What are we going to do, and does it settle out anytime soon?
You know what? I don't have a crystal ball on that one. So the second part, I'm really not quite sure. I think I'm in the same boat as you are. We hear a lot of different things that are out there. I think though there's some really interesting things happening to help people through this cycle. So for instance, the Raspberry Pi announcing the 2 gig is now they've laid out the board to have two 1 gig memory modules on it, which or memory devices on it, which is really a neat approach. We're also talking about how do we, take a look at memory footprints and help people shrink them. Because there's a lot of times people just buy like an 8 gig device, not realizing that it wouldn't take much to put it in a 4 gig, right? I mean, so I think we're going to find a lot more of that happening. But I think you're right on. It's going to be a little bit more pain. but we're trying to do our best. We have lots of different tools that we're putting out there to help people navigate through what's available, help people navigate kind of maybe there are certain places where there are alternatives that will work. The nice thing is that I think everyone realizes that this is something that we all have to address, and we're working internally at DigiKey to kind of help our customers through it. There is no simple solution right now, though. It just isn't, and it's something that we're going to work and make sure that we have our customers have the least amount of pain as possible.
Very good. Thank you very much, David. That was some great insights.
Thanks, Rich. It was great being here.
That was David Sandys. He is the Senior Director of Technical Enablement and Engagement at DigiKey, and I'm Rich Nass with Embedded Computing Design.